Conor McReynolds, and welcome to another episode of The Dinner Party. Each week I speak to a brilliant guest to find out about their dream dinner party, the location, the menu, and most importantly, the 5 guests that they would invite. We chat about who they are, why they'd be invited, and how they've inspired the dinner party host. This week I'm so excited to be joined by actor and comedian Philippa Carson. Philippa is one of the members of the brilliant sketch group Just These Please. You'll have seen any number of their viral videos online, their most famous being the hilarious "When You Order a Coffee with an Irish Name." I've seen Philippa live at the Edinburgh Fringe, and I've watched so many of the Just These Please videos online, so I'm super excited to chat to her and get to know her a bit better through hearing about the people who have inspired her. So without further ado, this is the dream dinner party of Philippa Carson. Philippa Carson, hello. Thank you so much for joining me on the dinner party.
Thank you so much for having me on the dinner party, Conor McReynolds.
Oh, how are you today?
I'm good today.
Good.
I've been buzzing to chat to you, and
I've been
and
very excited about this.
oh, that's nice.
So we're talking at the beginning of September, and obviously, usually at this time of year, I'm assuming you're kind of a shell of a person on a train from Scotland right now, or in a car, just kind of needing
Yes.
hibernation for a little while. But obviously, this summer you've not been at the Edinburgh Fringe. What does it feel like to kind of be at the beginning of September? And I assume you sort of feel relatively whole and normal.
Yes, I do feel whole and normal. I was just literally saying this a minute ago that at the beginning of lockdown, I was doing like Chloe Ting workouts on YouTube. Have you ever heard of Chloe Ting?
I haven't had the pleasure.
Well, she's brill, and she's just like really relaxed, but does incredibly difficult, like not incredibly difficult. What am I talking about? Incredibly like upbeat workouts. You know what I mean? So I
Right.
was like doing them at the beginning, like, oh my gosh, time inside, I'm gonna use my body. And then now by the end of it, now I'm like, I will only do small, relaxing yoga where I think of nice thoughts. So I think that's where I'm at this early September. But yeah, I think it feels weird because Edinburgh, I mean, we've only done 2 Edinburghs. This is gonna be our 3rd Edinburgh, but it's already become
Ah,
such a I suppose the year before that we did a recce, and so we spent that whole year after that planning the next Edinburgh, you know? So I think
yeah.
it does become a sort of, the way you live your life when you go to school, like September to September or September to May, June.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
live in that academic calendar in your head for so long afterwards. It's like I just transitioned from that to college to, like, Edinburgh. Do you know what I mean? And so then August is
Absolutely,
my
yeah.
it's like a
September is a real
structure.
restart month
Yeah, yeah,
for every
exactly.
kind of creative.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
and it's a
weird.
bit weird because I guess you guys. So to clarify for our lovely listeners, you are one of the members of the brilliant Just These Please, fantastic sketch group, and you
Why, thank you.
guys were planning Edinburgh this year, and obviously it kind of didn't come to pass. Does this
Mm.
mean that you have just a bumper pool of material to work from for next year's Edinburgh, or are some of the things that you've written kind of post COVID not as relevant anymore? Or what do you think will kind of happen to what would have been this year's show?
Well, I think we have a lot of it, generally speaking, we do apolitical, um generally speaking, apolitical stuff, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
does get into the zeitgeisty kind of cultural referencey world. Like we had one about Meghan and Kate and hanging out in, the palace when they've like that was in our very first show, and that was just
Hmm.
about all the
Hmm.
Meghan hype. So that was about as like culturally uh, well, no, it's relatively up to date, but we like to use the word evergreen sometimes about some of the sketches. So some of them are
Yeah, yeah.
evergreen guys that we can use again, and some of them, yeah, are lost to that time. But
Yeah. It's so
yeah.
interesting. And I guess that I'm really interested in that apolitical thing because it's sort of manifesto's a strong word and I probably shouldn't use it, but it's kind of your like statement on your website that our sketches are generally apolitical, often musical, and always hilarious. And I'd
Yeah.
absolutely agree with that.
Oh,
Was that
thank you.
apolitical thing that seems like a very conscious decision? Is that because as kind of 4 individuals you're not particularly political, or was it just thinking from a sort of audience perspective, we don't want anything too divisive and we want it to be escapism? I'm
I
really
I
interested
think
in that.
I think it's definitely escapism that we're going for. Really silly, fun escapism because I mean, myself and Will have both been in news review a number of times, and he's directed news review.
Hmm.
And he writes for News Dump and News Jack, and so we're definitely into um, comedy about, we're definitely into political satire, and
Yeah.
especially musical satire. I mean, I'm there for it. But I, I absolutely loved doing news review. But I just think, yeah, for our shows. And so online sketches, we might go into more political commentary, but no, scratch that. I just think we're open to being like, in after in this post lockdown world, we're definitely like, we're just not saying no to things. That's why I said that. But
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
definitely, we go with apolitical for the silly escapist um
Yeah.
fun. I think that's when we were flyering, say last year especially, so many shows were had Trump on the flyer. Oh no, I should say for 2018, because I was in news review in Edinburgh in 2018, and we just had Trump on the flyer. So that's a
Yeah.
divisive flyer when you hand it out. Some people are like, I can't look at that fella for another second. Is this a show about him? And I'd be like, no, it's like 30 sketches in an hour. Like he'll be in a couple
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
But so our one was really like, escape completely from the absolute turmoil that we live in and just laugh. Just laugh.
Yeah. And it's so great. I saw you guys in 2018, which now looking back, I just can't believe it was your first Edinburgh.
Oh,
Um,
thanks. Oh,
I
jeez. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I saw you guys at the Gilded Balloon because as with so much, it seems, Will Sebag Montefiore, your castmate and I believe housemate,
Yeah.
Will is kind of the glue that seems to bring all the members of Just These Please together. And then also he's what brought me in because I'd met Will on a stag do with the
Yeah.
lovely Sean Matthews, who co-hosts Will's brilliant The Last 10 Minutes podcast. Listeners of this podcast, do check out The Last 10 Minutes. It is so fantastic.
It's very
Um,
fun.
but I knew Will. I came to see you guys, and it was such a great show. Um,
Thanks.
Tell me about the kind of beginnings of Just These Please and what led you to your first Edinburgh. Because it was an unbelievably polished show for what I'm assuming was quite a new group.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, thank you so much. Well, we polished is a lovely word that we definitely like to make it very polished and really. I think that was a decision we'd made after our very first kind of trial show that we did in April. Um, so that was where we did a similar thing to News Review, where the blackout happens, the music brings you through the transition where you absolutely leg it off stage and you get your change of clothes and you come back on, and that's part of that real fun energy for News Review. But I think we after that first show, we'd filmed our very first like trial show. And then we watched it back and we were like, yeah, I think we want to do the transitions really being part of the show so that it's this fun thing that we're all in it together. And so our transitions being super neat and like, and we're
Hmm.
going to place the chairs there at the same time and then we're going to nod. And that it's like this super slick kind of, it's because it's 25 sketches in 55 minutes. It's like nice to have these like cool, calm transitions where it's like slick. We got this. Don't worry. Like I think
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's kind of the style. But so thanks. That's very nice that it reads that way. But yeah, Will is the glue. All right. He and Tom were at uni together, and they were in doing plays and things together because Tom, our fourth member, is
Yeah.
a full-time maritime lawyer.
Which is it's mad. I mean, you're one of these people as well, to be honest, like infuriatingly multi-talented because Tom is this exceptionally intelligent full-time maritime lawyer
Yeah.
and he's such a brilliant comic actor. He's such a great part of the group. His facial
Yeah.
expressions are off the scale funny.
Yeah.
But you as well. I mean, you have all these talents. I mean, you devise. You're an actor, a video editor, an improviser. You're a singer. I mean, a
Do you
radio
know what?
presenter. You do
Connor,
all of these things,
Connor, I
Philippa.
need to talk to you. I mean, I think we need to schedule in like a couple times a week. I'll talk to you, get my brain puffed up real good, and then I can carry on. You're very kind to me. Oh, lordy.
But my
Uh,
goodness, so many of these different skills that you bring together, and seemingly they all kind of complement the work you do with Just These Please, because you guys you perform live these brilliant live shows, but also so much of what you do, particularly at the moment, I guess, is your kind of online content, which you edit and you
mhm.
write and kind of help to direct and you perform in. I mean, how has I guess your online stuff was always a part of what you guys did. Your ordering a coffee with an Irish name was such a huge hit. Was that kind of the beginning of things ramping up for the group in terms of kind of being noticed and getting acclaim?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think that was, we filmed that and released it during our first Edinburgh in 2018. And it's so funny when you said about, this time of year, I'd be like on a train coming back, absolutely shelling myself. That 2018, I was doing News Review and Just These Please every day. So
Yeah.
it was so intense. And I literally, on the train on the way back, because we'd released that video and it had gone completely viral in, a couple of days, it was just so fun and fantastic. It was such lovely timing because we got to be like, it was just really nice. It was such a great time. And we had, because it had gone viral, we were getting messages in, and we'd gotten on the train, and I was just so like, I can't wait to do absolutely nothing. Oh my god, I'm just gonna switch off my brain. And we got this email in like, hey, just saw your video, we'd like you to make ads for us or whatever. And I was so infuriated because I was, that's exactly, of course we'd love to do that, of course, but I was just like, no, please, they don't understand, they need to leave us alone. We're so tired. But it was fantastic, but it was just, awful timing. But, yeah, so yes, it was a real, it's gotten, I think about 23 million views now,
That
and
is mad.
it's yeah, it's big. So it's been really nice way of helping everything else along because people might know that video if we say it, if we're trying to explain what we do, and then we can say, do you know
Yeah.
that video? Then they can say, ordering coffee with an Irish name. I think I remember that because my cousin's name is Siobhan or Aoife or, so
Yeah.
it's nice.
It was I mean, it was such a huge success for you guys, and did that early success kind of influence the types of topics you guys chose, or did it kind of free you up to try different things and experiment a bit more with the sort of safety net of people like us, people know us from this? So we did it kind of encourage you to try more things, or did you think we've got to sort of stick to what people know and like?
Hmm, that's a good question. I don't know. I think what was our next video after that? I'm like, I think it was the Christmas video was the next one after that, which we'd been writing anyway. I think we just have, because we do 25 sketches generally in an hour and they're so different. I think that we already had a plan to film some of those sketches that were in the show, or film ones that didn't
Yeah,
make it into
yeah.
the show that are just more suited to camera. So I think we've always had this like, do a sketch about anything and everything, and that maybe actually if we had been like, Irish names are a thing, okay, our sketches are completely about Irish names now from now on, then maybe that would have been way better to catch in. But we, unfortunately, I just was not on it
I'm
like
glad you didn't,
that.
because we all saw what happened to Lou Bega after Mambo Number Five. He
Oh,
tried to stay in that same area,
did
and
he? I don't
oh, I
know. I
believe
only know
so.
Mambo number 5. Isn't that funny?
Exactly.
Oh, there you
And I
go.
think if Lou Bega is now a cautionary tale to all creatives to spread your wings and fly a little bit. Oh, Lou, if you're listening to this, I'm
Oh,
so
jeez.
sorry, and I really hope you're well. Do you know what? I'm going to put it out there. I don't think Lou Bagel listens to the dinner
Do you
party, and
not
more
do you
fool
think that?
him.
Yeah, what? Lou, why aren't you listening? Guys, if you know Lou, will you send it over to him and be like, "Look."
So, but I've talked a little bit about your kind of myriad of skills and
Again,
kind of
this is
creative
all
interests.
thank you, thank you. Yes.
Is there one particular one that you're kind of wedded to? Do you think of yourself primarily as an actor or a comedian or a video editor or an improviser?
I
Uh,
think I think that, I actually always struggled to say what I am when people like
yeah.
my worst nightmare is the front row of a stand-up show because they go, "And what do you do?" Because I mean, first of all, if you say I'm in comedy, they're like, "Oh, yeah?" Or I don't know what it's gonna start if you say you're in comedy. But I just have never actually known how to say I'm a this. And,
Yeah.
because everything that I do helps each other. It's all, symbiotic. Is that the word?
Oh, yeah. I like this.
All
Yeah.
symbiosis. So I did a musical theater workshop, last year, for it's like a film that they're turning into a musical, and it was so fun. I love musical theater as well. And I was doing this workshop. We were in like 6 days a week, singing all day long and dancing, and that's where I'm also just like, God, I'm so happy. And I can't remember, I was telling the director some story or other, and I was being like, and then it was like this, or I don't know what kind of way I was telling him the story, but he just stopped me and was like, you know what you are? You're a vaudevillian. And then the choreographer was walking by and was just like, she is. You are a vaudevillian. And I was suddenly like, I have no idea what that is. I feel like it is. I just have never. I heard that word. I think I don't know, but I was like, thank you, kind sir. And then I went to the bathroom and I googled a vaudevillian, and I had this like happy wave of like, oh my god, I'm a vaudevillian, and that's a nice thing.
Well, tell us what it is for those like me who maybe aren't overly familiar with
Okay,
what a
well
vaudevillian is.
now, Connor, I hope I'm gonna remember and that I have actually seen the definition and then mutated it to be like work for me in my head. But I think a vaudevillian was like a traveling entertainer in, say, the 19th century, or
Uh-huh.
the 20th or an earlier 20th century, and they are a traveling entertainer, so they sing, dance, they do accents, they do comedy, they do um acting, and they just like pop up shop. So it wouldn't be a super massive compliment, I guess, because I was telling one of my friends this. I was like, "Ah, the director told me I was a vaudevillian," and she was like, "Oh God." Oh, oh, really? Are you okay? And I was sort of like, "Oh." I was like, I get how, because it's very much like you are a jack of all trades and a master of none, perhaps, 'cause this is how but I'm like, okay, but it's nice actually. Maybe that's what's up. That's what it is. Because, I came over here and I was like, accents are my thing, accents and singing and doing comedy things. And then it was like
Yeah.
the world was like, no, but you actually need a casting. And when are your accent? If I need an American, I'll get an American for that job. And then I was suddenly like, oh God, what? The world doesn't want to receive me in all my glory. Um, uh,
It's of all those things that and kind of the skill set that's needed to be a vaudevillian, a successful one, because there are all these different things that you do. Which of all the skills that you need for all the different work that you do is the one that you kind of find you have to work hardest at? Like,
hmm,
is there a kind of skill that's needed for the work that you do with like Just These Please, for example, that maybe
yeah.
you hadn't had a lot of experience of, and it's something you've kind of really had to sharpen up on? Because I'm sure there are some things that are just second nature, and some
Mm,
things that are like, oh god, okay, I'll try, but
yeah, I
maybe
think
not. Maybe you're just a duck to water with all these things.
well, I think that I went to film school originally, and I think I'd done that because I wanted to go to drama school, but I didn't know in Ireland how I could can you just get a degree and then be an actor? I didn't really think that that was a
Hmm.
thing. So I kind of went to film school, but really in film school I was like, can I be on the other side there? You need me to be on the other side? So I think that I do write and I love to write, and that thankfully, having gone and done that training, it forced me to write when I absolutely wouldn't have naturally. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm kind of just used to writing as maybe a means to an end. Um, and I really thought, oh, that's not my strong suit. But I think I really am an editor in both senses, like video and script, and just
Yeah.
I think that's my strength. So I think the writing, sitting down, having that discipline to write, like Tom and Will and Georgie can just write stuff. And I mean, Tom's notes section on his iPhone, I'm like, please don't let him lose his iPhone ever, because it goes on, his thumb just scrolls and scrolls, because he just has these great little ideas and he writes them down, and it really flows out of him very naturally. And for me, I think it's more of a means to an end. Like, I got to write something. This is the idea. Oh, that's
Yeah,
where
yeah.
the practice helps, but it doesn't come to me naturally, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like the skill set that all four of you bring to the group. I mean, clearly the evidence is there in your output. I mean, you all work so well
Thanks,
together.
Connor. You're
I'm
so
really
kind to me.
I'm really interested in you talk about how kind of the writing is something that maybe you have to force yourself to do a little bit more. And recently you've started doing something that is the exact opposite of pre-prepared writing, planning,
Oh, yeah.
thinking about it. You joined the cast of Bumper Blighton, the improv
Yes.
show based on Enid Blyton books. Uh,
Mhm.
did you manage to perform with them before lockdown, or was this something like join our cast? We're not doing any more shows. Was it kind of that sudden?
Well, it was, I got to do a show with them in Hoopla, so that was brilliant. They have a
Lovely.
residency, in Hoopla once a month, they do a show. So I got to do one of them, and that was so fun. Oh, it was so fun. And they're really just, they're such pros, and they've been going for years. And like
Yeah,
Jonah Fazell, who runs that company, with Amy Cook Hodgson, who is incredible also. They're
yeah,
just
yeah.
they're just such professional improvisers. They've so much years of experience. And so it was really great. So I got to do loads of rehearsals with them, which has been I learned loads in them, and that was just so great, because I've done improv a lot in Ireland, and I did some over here with my pals, and that's how I met Will.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. I
Yes.
see.
So
Oh, so improv isn't a new thing to you. I didn't know if this was like your first foray into improv, or but you're
it,
a seasoned hand at
seasoned hand is obviously
it.
generous, generous. I definitely dip in and out of improv, and I absolutely love it. But I in terms of what's new to me with Bumper Blighton is that their whole show, I was like, so what are the scene structures? And I think both improv companies that I'd been with before, we have structures, and like the full length
Mhm.
shows, they're divided into sort of scenes, and in themselves, those scenes might be games, or in the scene, establish a lead, let's establish a sidekick, or
Mhm.
this one needs a villain and maybe two henchmen. So like in this scene, sort of this should happen. And so with the bumper lads, I was like, so guys, like, what's the structure, and how do you, and they're just like, it just, you go with it. And they're just such good improvisers that they don't even have a structure now. They know the Enid Blyton books very well. And,
Yeah.
and so it's always, it's a different type of Enid Blyton story. So that's where, like, okay, if it's in a school, then it's going to be set in a school. If it's an adventure that sounds a bit schooly, there's different types of, because Enid Blyton wrote so many books. I did not realize this. Also, speaking of editing, it's very hilarious. She didn't have an editor and was very much like, "Oh, I don't need an editor." And you can tell because her books are like, and then Georgina sat down and made herself a cucumber sandwich. And then she put the slice of bread down. And then she put the cucumber down. And then she chopped little slices of the cucumber and placed them on the bread. And then and you're like, oh my God. 3 pages later, she's finished eating the cucumber sandwich. Anyway, anyway,
That's nice.
overall, she writes fantastic, obviously, stuff. So there's different types that the show could go in that direction or that direction, but it's their loose, like, yeah, they just go with it. And that I think, wow, I'm sad that I'm not sure now what's happening. They had a massive tour booked in, and
Yeah.
some of those shows might still be on. Hooray! And so I'm not
That
sure.
would be very
I need to
exciting.
call Jonah, tell him to listen to this, and then let me know.
Hear you just gushing about how much you love it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Jonah, if you're listening, Philippa is available this autumn and very keen to perform.
major fan of you. Yeah.
Are there any things? This is something I like to ask a lot of creative people. I think it's because it's something that I think about loads, and I've kind of reached an age where I'm like, oh God, I hope it's not too late for me to decide that I want to try something new. But
Mm.
you've done so many wonderful things. Is there anything kind of left on your sort of creative wish list, like a discipline that you would like to dip your toe into and see if you enjoy it? I mean, I think all of your skills, as this kind of sort of a stand-up comedian myself, all of your skill set
Wait,
is
stop. Hardly.
tailor made to be a stand-up. Is that something you would like to try at any point, or have you tried it?
Stand up, I would really, my cousins were doing stand up for a while there, and like I mean a good number of years ago, and they'd kind of said like, "Come on, like do it." And they'd run this night in Dublin. Um, this is my very hilarious, wonderful cousin Hugh O'Connor, and
Hmm.
he's cousins with the very lovely Jarlath Regan, on the other side.
Oh yeah, Jarlath's great.
Oh, Jarlath is just class, and
He's a
he's so
legend.
kind and really, actually gave us loads of guidance in the beginning. With just these piece, I rang him up like,
Oh,
"Can you help
brilliant.
us? Like, what do I do?" He's such a lovely man. But so, Hugh had set up this night called the Quiet Pint in Dublin, and they were doing it once a month, and a bunch of them were doing stand up, and it was kind of like an opportunity where he was like, they hadn't said like you should do it too at all. Sorry, but it was something that where if I could have gone away and worked away and then been like, "Hey guys, maybe." It was just inspiration of stand up around me. Let's just go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's that a lot of again with the writing. That's where I think it gets me. Is that I think of writing the show and it's so intimidating. And there's something about this. I felt like I was talking with my buddy Aaron about this, where he was saying, I think your stand up show should be called Sit Down. Like, I think it should be like sit down with a hot chocolate with some whiskey in it. And that's my kind of style, where I will just talk away at you. I think that would be more like, you know, because I don't know. I don't know. It is something that I'll do eventually, but
I'd
it does.
love to see it. I'd
Oh,
really love to see it.
thank you.
I think that's a really interesting idea because there are so many different kinds of stand up. There like Jarlath's energy, for example, is so relaxed and conversational,
Yes.
and it's like having a kind of warm but very funny blanket wrapped around you. Like it's just lovely. But
That's
then there are
lovely.
some stand-ups where you're in a room with them, and even in a 10-minute set, you're like, oh Jesus Christ, the speed they went at. I've got fucking whiplash from
Yeah.
having watched them for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's very much not my energy either. My lovely friend Chelsea Birkby, who's a brilliant stand-up, she said that she had an idea if I ever did a stand up, like if I ever filmed any kind of stand up thing, that she would want me to film it in two ways. She would want me to film it like, a normal show on stage in front of an audience, but then also just in a pub, like sat over a pint with kind of
Yes,
eight
yes,
audience members sat around a table because it's like, just sharing stories and having a chat and that kind
yeah.
of thing. And then just like edit it together. So, part of the stories in the pub, you pick it up then on stage or whatever. And yeah, like, I think that
That's a
sounds like the
great
kind of
idea.
energy that you want to bring. I know. I
That's a
know.
very
If
Netflix special idea. Hey,
if
God.
anybody listens to this and steals that idea, I will send Chelsea Birkby after you with a sharp object.
Oh my
Uh,
god.
but yeah, it sounds like that's very much the kind of vibe that you would like to do. Just like
Hmm.
sit people down, have a chat with them. I would love to see this. And you've got that writing experience as well. So maybe
Well,
I'll just keep like sending you occasional messages and bullying you and saying, have you got that 10 minutes yet? Come to
yeah.
Jericho Comedy.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll definitely need that kick up the bum, I think, 'cause, and it would either go, I think, 'cause then now I'm thinking, I'm like, actually, an easier way to do it would be to make it a musical comedy type of thing as well, 'cause then I
Oh,
think there's something
yeah.
lovely about gigging. We just did our first gig, our Just These Please just did our first gig last week, which was just in a
Oh,
garden.
brilliant.
garden, albeit. And yeah, it was great. It was for charity, and our pal Hannah Johnson, who's a producer, organized it, and it was just a bunch of us doing 10 to 15 minutes each, and it was so mad to be like Rusty is not even, it doesn't come color covered. I don't know. It was dusting off the cobwebs, but I think doing musical numbers at a gig is a really fun way to like sort of get people involved or get people on side, like they understand and they can relax. Because I think a newbie sometimes doing stand up, that would make me feel nervous being a newbie. I don't know. If I was a newbie and I was just sing, and maybe my song should be like, "Hey, I'm a newbie and you're all nervous, but just relax and it'll be great." Whoa, that was good. Oh my god. Hang on, sorry, I need to write that down because that was, oh holy crap. That was
You've
good.
written your opening number for your first stand-up set. It's begun.
Oh, huzzah!
Well, Philippa, there's so much I want to talk to you about, but I always get too caught up in just being interested in you at the beginning, or interested in my guest at the beginning of an episode, that I sort of forget why we're here, which is, of course, to talk about your dream dinner party.
Yes.
So before we talk about your brilliant guests, and it really is such a brilliant group of guests, I'm so excited to talk to you about these people. But before that, as a dinner party host,
Mm.
what's the vibe? Like, if you're going to a dinner party of Philippa Carson's, what do you expect?
I'm so like not a grown up yet that I'm like, how many dinner parties have I actually hosted? I don't know. I feel like such a non grown up person. I'm like, dinner parties. What can you expect? I think my childhood like dinner parties always have a sing song. So like every
Oh,
single one of my
brilliant.
thing, yeah, like where my dad would be like, "Get up there and do your Irish dancing," and I'm like, I can't. There needs to be a bunch of people with me, and they're like, "Get up there, pay for your lessons, get up," and then I'll be like, "There's no music," and everyone will go da 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 da. Da. So there's always been a sing song at our in throughout my childhood, and like fantastic uncles who played the guitar and they're just piano and lovely. So I would say there has to be a sing song, but it has to
Yeah.
happen like organically. Um, I had a party recently where one of my beloved friends took out a guitar and it was like, I'm sorry, there's music playing and you're playing. No, this cannot happen at the same time. This is only you trying to pull that girl. You guys can go into the room there. No, it was like, I think it just has to be like somebody has to be like, is this a new piano? Pudding, pudding. And then everybody just slowly gathers over. And then you're like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, holy shit. No worries. We're singing in harmony. It's all chill. That would be. So yeah, I would say V relaxed with lots of drink on board so that the V relaxed organic sing song I didn't even notice we're singing.
That's
Are we is that 3-part harmony? Why? Oh, don't worry about it. That's what
Oh,
I'm
that
looking for.
sounds gorgeous. That sounds absolutely lovely. Well, where would this be happening? If you could host your dinner party anywhere on planet Earth, where would you
Mm,
want to host it?
I think I don't know. I'm torn here between like t-shirt at night weather, some Caribbean beach.
Oh,
You know, I
yeah.
just love t-shirt at night, like, yeah, but it's like some sort of Caribbean-y beach deck where there's the piano just, oh, it's chilling there on the side. Don't worry about it. It'll get involved later. Oh, maybe. I don't know. No, don't feel any pressure. It's part of the furniture. Um, and yeah, like I kind of feel like t-shirt at night or beautiful Kerry, like wild weather, and we're all stuck inside together. Uh, so I'm torn. So
Oh,
if we flip a coin there, uh, um,
you're singing my song with.
am I singing
It,
your
it's
song?
it's interesting. Like, we're Irish,
Yeah,
and I'm sat here chatting to you now, looking out my window as it is absolutely pissing it down,
of course it is.
and I fucking love it. Do you get that as well? Like, growing up in Ireland, we have no choice but to love the
Yes.
bad weather. So when it arrives, I'm like, this is it. This is living.
Well, I think I can do that definitely in a way where like if it's raining, hail, rain, or it's whatever the weather, I'm going for a swim in the sea. Like I don't
Yes.
mind. Yeah, yeah. Whatever. I honestly so I definitely have that. But I also love I live in London now. And I love the way, like, everyone's like, "Oh my God, I'm being absolutely cooked alive in my house. Like, what the hell?" And I'm in the corner, like, delighted with my life. I think I'm a lizard. I'm just like, "Oh, my cold Irish wet, damp bones are, like, drying up and soaking in the warmth." And they're like, "Oh my God, I need aircon. I need a fan." I'm like, "Nope, I threw them in the bin. I'll be over here in the fireplace." So yeah, that's
You're very lucky that you can adjust to both. I think I'm that kind of uncomfortable Irish where if it goes above 20 degrees and I go outdoors, I just turn the color of cooked ham, and then I go back to sort of 3 days later after hiding in the shade. And oh, he's the color of butter again. That's good.
Oh my God.
One or
Do
the
you know
other.
what is I remember being in home ec, and they were explaining, how melanin works, and they were picking examples of people in the class and saying, like, "See, so Philippa there, she'd have no melanin, right? So that's why she's that grey, awful colour, God love her." And I was like, "Ah, here, pardon?" They'd be like, "Yeah, that's because you've no stuff called melanin, which is this, stuff that is lovely, protects your skin, and you have none of it, God love you." And so, um sad. It was not a nice day for me.
Philippa,
Anyway.
what I'm going to do is by the end of this episode, I'm going to have a set list for your first stand-up set. And your melanin story is going to be in that set. That is brilliant.
Oh, dear.
Right. We're either, obviously, we're either in wild Kerry
Yes.
or a Caribbean beach. They're so
Yes.
interchangeable.
Mhm.
And we're getting ready for our sing song. And we've got to invite your first guest. He's a
Yes.
national treasure. Obviously, one that the Brits will try to steal from us, but he's our national treasure.
Hours.
You're inviting the absolutely fantastic Graham Norton to your dinner party.
Yeah, I am, yeah.
Graham Norton is a legend. I first remember seeing him as Father Noel Furlong and Father Ted. What's
Mhm.
your first memory of becoming a Graham Norton fan?
Similar, that's the same. That's the first thing I thought of when I was trying to think
Yeah.
of people I love. It was when he's like, "Oh, Ted! Oh, God." And when he's like, "I'm writing you down in my little list of ideas." And then he writes down, he's like, "Just kidding, I wrote that I really love Tony." Like, he's just, oh, he's
He's
incredible.
so funny. And he's had such a kind of he's like you and Tom and Will and Georgie. Like he's so multi-talented. Kind of he's an infuriatingly natural interviewer and radio host, brilliant stand-up comedian, successful novelist. He even
Yeah,
has his own line of wines.
does
Uh
he?
yeah, yeah, you can get Graham Norton wine. I have no
What?
idea if it's any good, but
Oh,
I bet
that's
it would be fun to drink.
it would be.
But
Yeah.
what do you think as a kind of fellow multidiscipline creative, do you think you'd enjoy talking about all your different kind of crafts with him, or what do you think you would want to chat to him about?
Well, I think as a dinner party guest, generally, he would just have such good stories, and, like, I'd love
Mhm.
to just ask him about various guests and that he's had on and what that's like. And yeah, I guess I'm really interested in I mean, he trained as an actor in Central, same as me, and,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, so was he doing serious acting, and then did he go into the comedy? I'd love to ask him about that, that'd be cool. But,
Mm.
um I mostly think that he's such a pro. My buddy Aoife works for him at the show,
Oh,
and
wow.
she just said he's an incredibly lovely dude. And then she got us some tickets to go and see it live. Sure, you can go and sit in the audience.
Yeah.
And he was such a pro. I mean, honestly, he gets 10 seconds and he turns to the camera here and he does the bit where he pops the CD on his lap or the record or whatever it is that he's talking about for the
Mhm.
guest. And
Mhm.
he was just like, "And what am I saying? I'm saying that? Okay, no problem." He's like, "And don't forget that you can get this, this, and this, and this." And whatever way he said it, he added in a little joke and he did thing, thing, thing. And then they said, "Oh, can you do it again? But like this?" No problem. Bing, bing, bing. And this is all in front of the live audience. And the pressure is, and he just does everything smooth and perfectly. And I was bowled over by what a pro he
Yeah.
was. Because I think,
Yeah.
when I was going to see this, live TV recording, I expected it to be like what I've heard, that say X Factors, like you sit there for ages while they touch up the makeup and it's long. But it wasn't
Hmm.
at all. It was really he just does it all live. He's just a real pro. So I guess I I would gush over him and tell him that he's great, and then ask him to tell us loads of stories. Mm.
That sounds pretty ideal. And I'm so glad to hear that he's nice because it would just be soul
Yeah,
destroying if your friend Aoife was like, oh, and he's a real shit to work with. I'd be like,
I know. No,
no, why are you doing
yeah.
this?
I hate when you find out someone great, like Graham Linehan now going off on one on Twitter. I'm like, will
Oh,
you
Jesus.
stop? You're
It's so
awful
dreadful.
now. He's
Yeah.
awful.
It's such a shame. It's a crying shame. It's
It
again,
is.
it's another, there's a brilliant episode of Jarlath Regan's podcast, Irishman Abroad, where he kind
Mm,
of challenges Graham Linehan on some of those things. I don't know
really?
if you've heard it. He
No,
does
I
it
would.
in a very nice way, but yeah,
Mm,
like he doesn't kind of pull his punches. He sort of says, like, why are you saying these things? And yeah, it's really excellent. Again, if people are looking for things to listen to, last 10 minutes, brilliant podcast. And Jarlath Regan's Irishman Abroad, absolutely terrific. But anyway,
yeah,
back
they're
to
great.
Graham Norton. I got
Hmm.
sidetracked talking about Jarlath. Would you be kind of, do you think it would be a difficult transition for Graham to suddenly be a guest rather than facilitating the conversation with your guest? Because you're the host. Do you think he would have
Oh,
a tough time kind of, or would you want him to be the person who sort of takes control of the conversation or brings people in and
oh, interesting. I mean, it's funny because I saw him being interviewed and promoting his book, and he kept saying things
Mhm.
like, "This is so ick, me being on this side. I don't know." So yeah, maybe, but I guess I didn't really think about the dinner party in terms of having a host, but it is me, I guess.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, he'd have to be a guest because I'm like, hey, and now we're directing the convo towards you, so or no, I don't know. Oh,
It
I
would
guess
all, I'm sure it would be very organic. I'm sure people would shut up when they need to shut up and
yeah.
contribute when they've got something good to say.
Yeah, because I think I would feel a weird pressure, but so funny because I am, uh, my auntie's friend, my aunt Elizabeth, who's just this incredibly kind, wonderful. Like she was there texting me like, "You've this many views," and somebody else ripped it, and I've been looking at their views as well. So you've that many on that. She's just so thoughtful and lovely. And every single friend that I meet of hers is like, "Oh, are you Philippa? And how's just these, please? And how's your most recent anything?" She's just so brilliant. But anyway, I met one of her friends recently who said to me, "Have you always been like this?" And I was like, "What kind of a question is that?" It's like like an attention seeker? Is that because the answer is yes, darling. Um, no, I just laughed. I was so funny. But yeah, I was saying, absolutely yes. But so I really, I love performing. I absolutely love it. But there's something about actually being the center of attention in another way where, say if I ever get married, I wouldn't like it to be a big wedding. I wouldn't like to be the center of attention for the day in real life or something.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
like I had a big 21st, a massive 21st. I thought it would be really brilliant idea. Like let's invite feckin' everyone I know. And then
Yeah.
I was mortified at the top. Everyone's saying me happy birthday, and I was like, "Oof!" It was really surprising to me because I was like, "But I love the attention, surely." But so I don't think I would actually like to have that hosty chair. So maybe he can chair the dinner. But as you said, it will be an organic chat.
Yes. Well, as his kind of chat show always is, he has kind of three or four huge personalities sat on the sofa, and he's not a
Yes,
small personality either.
yes.
And it always just looks
True.
effortless. He's such a great guest
He
to
will
have.
totally mellow out the everybody. Yes.
Yeah, it's a perfect and such a perfect first guest as well because it
Oh,
really goes a long way to kind of establishing the sort
mhm.
of the mood and the vibe that you've described. I think it's a perfect fit so far.
Good. Oh, good. This is a good. I'm glad. Oh, I
I've
feel
never
shocked.
graded guests
Holy
before
crap.
on the podcast.
Feeling shocked
So
here.
yeah.
Yes.
But I'm giving Graham a solid A plus and you a solid A plus for choosing him. Your
Oh,
next guest is a true trailblazer for, I mean, not just every creative in general, but specifically for women in comedy and TV.
mhm.
You're inviting the amazing Lucille Ball.
Yeah.
So
It's
tell us, for those who may not know who Lucille Ball is, tell us about Lucille.
Lucille Ball is the producer and the actor of a show called I Love Lucy, which she did in the late 40s. Um, through to maybe the 60s. Oh, I actually don't
Hmm.
have my dates 100% for this, but she did this amazing show called I Love Lucy. And by the time that she was in her 40s, she was the most viewed face on television in the history of television.
Hmm.
So she was I mean, she did I Love Lucy. Before that, she had been basically like the star of the B picture, if you like. There was A pictures and there was B movies. And
Hmm.
so she just didn't quite make it against like Maureen O'Hara and all these really big stars as the absolute Hollywood like top, she'd been a
Yeah,
model,
yeah.
she was auditioning for those parts, she didn't get them, and then she would always get these lead roles in these B movies. And then she married this wonderful Cuban band leader whose name is Ricky Ricardo. And oh, hang on, his name is Ricky Arnaz. His character name is Ricky Ricardo. And Ricky Arnaz, he is amazing. Hang on, is his name Desi Arnaz? Yes, it is. Let me Google this. Desi Arnaz is their kid's name. No, and it's his name. So Ricky again, Ricky Arnaz was his Ricky Ricardo is his character name. Good Lord in heaven. The point is, the TV approached Lucy at a time when it was not very glamorous to be in TV. And CBS said, "Look, Lucy, do you want to be in this show?" Because she had done a radio play with this guy, and it was going really, really well. This
Hmm.
radio show is super popular. So they said, CBS want to make that radio show into a TV show. And at the time, TV, it wasn't like what it is now, which is just massive, obviously. And
Yeah, yeah.
so she said yes, she's going to do it, but she doesn't want the lead character in the radio show to be her husband. She wants Ricky, her real life husband, to play her husband in it. And they were kind of didn't want that. They were like, oh no, we don't want this Cuban guy to be in this American 1940s TV show, like
Hmm.
quintessential family
Hmm.
show. And she's like, nope, it's happening. And she's just so cool. She's such a badass. There's been so many points through that show. It was like Friends in terms of like how long it went on and how
Yeah, yeah.
involved everyone was in this I Love Lucy. And she is one of the first women she was the first woman who ever had pregnancy as part of a storyline on TV.
This was something I read and I could not believe. Like, I mean, to talk about her creative achievements, she'd be an extraordinary person now.
Mm,
But when you put her in the 1950s,
yeah.
where it was such a male dominated space and all the
Mhm.
executives were men and all the influential people were men, and she came in just like a steamroller and was just like, fuck that. I'm
Yeah.
brilliant and I'm going to do it. So, like, yeah, this story about the CBS insisting that not only they didn't want pregnant women shown on television, but they didn't even want the word pregnant to be spoken on
Yes.
air.
Oh my God. What
That
on
is
earth?
mental.
How do they think that they were born? I just
I
was
know, yeah.
you're
it's
alive,
it's
no? I mean, how what?
absolutely insane. But she just went ahead and did what she wanted to do and made it happen.
Yeah, yeah. She
Um,
is a total badass,
she's
and she's
yeah,
great. And I mean, first of all, I just love the show. I sound like I know loads and loads about her, but I actually watched very recently a documentary about her life, which is how comes I'm so like obsessed with that. Wow, all the stuff that she did, and
yeah, yeah,
well, but I mean, I've before having watched that, I was a massive fan because of I Love Lucy. And when we were kids, that was what we watched. Like my family would just watch these old black and white VHS tapes.
ah,
Like,
lovely.
yeah, we kept this VHS machine for years after it would have been thrown out, so we could watch all these I Love Lucy shows. And it was just a real like thing that kept us all together. Kept us all together,
Oh, that's so
enjoying
lovely.
it. Yeah, it's
So if
great.
she
So
was
that
at your dinner party, I'm sure she would absolutely love hearing that as well.
yeah, and also she's great crack and a great singer. And oh, she's it. Have you ever seen Mame?
No, I haven't.
Mame is a movie that I haven't seen, but I saw the musical, that was up recently on in Manchester, and I did
Okay.
this musical theater, workshop that I was telling you about, the one where Lonnie Price, the director, was like, "You're a vaudevillian." So in that, I was in it with this amazing actress called Harriet Thorpe, who is from Absolutely Fabulous, and she is just
Oh
a
wow.
hilarious, wonderful, wonderful woman. And she was in Mame, so we went up to go and see her in Manchester. And that was a film that Lucy was in. And again, it's just about this badass woman who's just like, nope, no one's going to stop me. And it's from the 70s, and that was Lucy's film that I'm. So I'm just, I could go on and be like, just
She's
you're
so
great.
cool. And
Yeah.
all of her kind of on-screen talent and her kind of writing talent and all of that stuff is one thing. And again, I mean the misogyny and the bullshit that she had to operate in and still be so successful. It's one thing to kind of be an on-screen star. It's sort of another thing entirely to become the first woman to run a major TV studio.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like she was running like the shopping channel or something. The TV station that she became the head of produced like Mission Impossible and Star Trek, like these huge hits, a totally different skill. But
Yeah.
she was the woman that paved the way for women in that industry and kind of the first woman ever to do something like that.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I didn't think of it that way at all, and you're absolutely right. She must have absolutely paved the way for all these men to be used to a woman in power at the time, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, representation is still a huge problem, still a huge issue in
Mm.
so many creative industries. But yeah, I just when I didn't know a lot about Lucille Ball, I hadn't really watched I Love Lucy. My wife loved it,
Ah,
but it wasn't something that I really knew very well. I was kind of aware of it, obviously, but just reading about her ahead of this, I was just bowled over by her. She's just this phenomenal person. How do you think someone like Lucille Ball would operate in today's entertainment landscape where there are so many fewer barriers? I mean, still too many barriers for
yeah,
women, but
yeah.
fewer. How do you think
Yeah.
she would kind of hold her own these days?
I don't know if you can beat what she did. I think she would just be
Mm.
doing it in the same sort of I mean, wow, I'd say she'd have feckin' taken over, bought Netflix at this stage or something. She she's just like even when you see her, like, being interviewed, after there's something very relaxed about her, even though she, works at a high level, like, I watched a couple of interviews with her where she's just so, like, "Oh, stop," like, she'll just, like, give the interviewer,
Yeah.
like, a slap on the wrist and not even answer what he's saying 'cause she's just disinterested. So I feel like a lot of those, like, crappy sexist questions that would get thrown her way, like, "Who are you wearing, Lucy?" She'd just be like,
Yes. Yeah.
why
Yeah.
would that be relevant? I feel like I feel like there'd be loads of memes of stuff that she would say if she was around now. Yes.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
She's such an absolutely brilliant choice for a second guest. I mean, is she someone who's kind of influenced like her style and her attitude, her performance skills? Like as a performer yourself, is she someone who you think has influenced the way that you work and the way you think about your work? Or
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think in terms of, like, sometimes her facial expressions just make the scene, and you don't really need to, you know, that the scene might be a very simple scene where, she's just making chocolate chip cookies wrong. She gets a job at a chocolate chip cookie factory, and
Mhm.
she's not as good as the girl beside her. The end. Like, it doesn't seem like you could do anything with that, but she makes a 5-minute scene. Now, obviously, also because the scenes are longer, they got more time. In the 50s, they're not under so much pressure like TikTok style. Get the info
Yeah, yeah.
in the first 10 seconds or someone scrolled by. I mean, they had more time to, like, ease in and be like, just watch this chick, she's funny. But, her facial expressions just do the work. And I guess that always made me think, like, especially in improv, sometimes if you just pick a character and you lean into the character, you don't necessarily have to come up with something funny. There's no pressure on you to like quick add a funny line that you better make up right now. You know, it's just like if you think of something in this character, it'll just come out. And to be able to just go really extreme on facial expressions or the physicality of a character,
Hmm.
it frees you up to not have to be yourself thinking of something funny that the character
Yeah, yeah,
situation, if you know what I
yeah.
mean. Yeah, so I think yes is the short answer, and that took a
No,
good
I'm
couple minutes to
far
say.
more interested in the long answer.
Oh, well, good.
Well, Lucille Ball, such a terrific second guest.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
Guest number three is just you've knocked it out of the park with your choices. Such an inspired choice for guest number three. I think he'd be equal parts fascinating and
Mhm.
fucking terrifying to have at a dinner party. But he's someone that you would absolutely want there. You're inviting master illusionist Darren Brown.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
god. Brilliant
yeah.
choice. Why Darren Brown?
Well, I mean, I think because do you know why? My initial list was first of all, it was like 20 people long, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know," because do you know what? I'm not actually a very good fan. I know I sound like I'm a massive fan of Lucille Ball, okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm not. I don't tend to be a very good fangirl. Like I love Wes Anderson. I'll come out of a Wes Anderson film and be like, "Wow, that was so great," but then someone will be like, "Did you see blah that he did last year?" And I'll be like, "Nope." So I think I'm quite a rubbish like person at keeping up with people that I you know, so
Yeah.
so when I've listened to your fantastic episodes, like with Milo and Suze and Tiernan, and they really have people who, like Suze and her knowledge of Freddie Mercury, that I thought like,
Yeah,
I'm
insane.
not, I don't have this fandom necessarily about um about people.
Yeah.
So all the people that I had written down was just like loads of people who I love, and so I couldn't whittle it down. And I was like, okay, everybody that I loved was like, you know, Tina Fey, Judd Apatow, Leslie Mann, Melissa McCarthy, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, like they're all the same. So I was like, no, 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 hang on. We need to get somebody who's not in the arts, but who's in the arts in a different way, and
Yeah,
who.
yeah.
And then I remembered that I'd been to see Darren Brown live, and that it blew my
Oh
tiny.
my god, I had the exact same experience. I went to see him live, and
Did you?
yeah, I I don't know if you have this thing where if you watch too much Darren Brown, I go through phases with people. So I'm in a real Bill Hader space at the minute where I just have to watch as much Bill Hader as I can possibly consume. But I've been through it with Darren Brown, and I genuinely got it into my head that somehow I was a subject of a Darren Brown show, and everything that was happening around me, I was like, "Ah, of course this is happening." And he has this ability to get into your head,
God.
even if you're not a subject of his show. And hey,
Yes.
it could just be a very long experiment that 2 years in he's still not revealed himself to me. But
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
I'm just not a
No,
Dan
it
Brown
could be
subject.
Connor. It could, honest to God, it could be. We're both gonna end up on the Channel 4 show just
Is
around.
there a particular kind of Darren Brown show or illusion that you just love that you kind of come back to and you're like, what the fuck?
I think I mean, every time he does things that are like, he had somebody levitating. Like, I'm just like, "Wait, I don't
Yeah.
understand." I I mean, there was so the way you were saying I had this radio show. Well, I had this radio show in the Irish language, which is actually the only reason I was given a radio show, because I was making copies at a radio station, and then the girl who did the Irish language show was going off on a world tour, and I
Oh
overheard the
wow.
manager telling somebody like, "I'm going to have to find somebody who speaks fluent Irish who's going to do this radio show," and I popped my head in like, "Oh, dia gwitch machara." And but I looked and he was like, "Go feck off, you gobshite. Go make my tea properly." No, I'm kidding. He was really nice, but that's how I wrangled my way into getting this radio show, which was Oscuelga. So we were contacted by this magician. They were saying like he's going to be Darren Brown, but in the Irish language, and we need you guys to just be passersby on the street because in Ireland, as you know, not everybody speaks Irish, and
Yeah.
so when they're doing the, like, stopping people on the street to, like, to get them to have magic done on them, they'd be like,
Oh,
"Oh,
wow.
come Comhalashkil, Comhalashkil," and people would be like, Pardon? Pardon?" Go Comhalashkil, excuse me, in the Irish language, and, so they had to arrange for passersby who were fluent in Irish to walk by. Now, also, I am not fluent. I am Dublin Irish fluent, which is a kind of spin 103.8, which is like their radio station there, Irish, where it's like every second word is in English, and it's all kind of like a relaxed kind of a thing. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, so we were walking by, they stop us, and this guy does this amazing magic trick where he gets one of the girls to think of something out of her head, and she says motorbike, and then he walks down and he picks up a cloth and he drops it, and the motorbike is there. Now, I was there, I was there, so and I'm like, okay, I'm still this is, like, so many years ago, and I'm still like, "But I didn't hear them but a motorbike. What if she had said horse? What if where did the mic I didn't hear it coming. Where did the motorbike?" So, I'm still so baffled, and I by just his magic, and he and Darren Brown is on a whole 'nother level, and I mean, I'm just like, I don't wanna make the man work on his night off at the party, but I'm also like, "I'm sorry, you're please do us something because" and then just, are you allowed to talk us through it? Because he has this way of also being like, "Look, none of what I do is magic, okay?" But then he
Yeah.
proceeds to do some magic! So,
Yeah.
how is it
He
not magic?
it's weird. Yeah, the way he talks about it is so interesting. Like, he is upfront. I think back to he did some of that really interesting stuff where he kind of revealed how these sort of crazy Christian preachers who claim to heal the sick and
Oh, I've
fix
heard about
blindness and all that stuff, and he
yes.
kind of did a bit of an expose into their methods. And in one of his stage shows, he kept saying to the audience, "This isn't real. I can't heal you, but I'm going to do exactly what they do." And he approached this woman who had to wear glasses, reading glasses, and like she took her glasses off. He asked her to read something in the program. She absolutely couldn't see it. He did his little kind of bit of mumbo jumbo, and then she was able to read. And it wasn't a plant or anything. It was in a big theater of like 2,000 people. They had
Yeah.
to volunteer themselves for it, or whatever. So he's doing something, and
Yeah.
it's clearly just like a mind trick or whatever. So the depth of understanding of human psychology that he must have is
Man.
staggering,
Yeah.
absolutely staggering. I'm really interested. You mentioned where the guy that you saw produce this motorbike could have been a horse, could have been whatever else. Do you
Mm.
think with Darren Brown you would want to understand his methods, or is it enough to just enjoy what he does?
Yeah, I think you're right. There could be an element there, if this is what you're saying, of like it would take away the enjoyment if you knew that it was actually just XYZ.
Yeah, or you
Yeah.
might appreciate it on a totally different level, but I part of the fun of it for me is the kind of how in the world
Yeah,
did he
yeah.
do that? And I love the it's not even like I can make an educated guess. I could never say, "Oh, well, he put a chip in her ear and that fixed her eyes," or something like. I can just never understand, never begin to understand it. But then I think if I did understand it, and if you had him there at your dinner party and you asked him, you'd appreciate it in a whole different way, perhaps. But do you think you would lean toward one thing or the other?
Well, I think actually, if it is really what he has is, as you said, such a in-depth understanding of the human psyche. Like if it really is that he understands how people are thinking from just looking at them and whatever, then maybe I would love for him to tell me more. Then I'd love to know that that's more about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there's something really powerful about um your thoughts, and I'd love to know, to be able to understand my thoughts more, because I it's funny. I ran into a friend of mine recently who I hadn't seen in years, and he reminded me of this one time that we bumped into a friend of his, and he introduced me to him, and I said, "Hello, handsome man," and he said, "Hello, average-looking woman."
Oh God.
I know, and I went,
Yeah.
and I had entirely forgotten the story, right? So because apparently, so my friend Michael's like, "Yeah," and then you just said, "Oh no, you're an asshole." Oh, okay. And then you walked away. And I was like, "I can't remember this." And then I suddenly remembered, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I remember that." And he said, "My I can't believe that you can't remember." He was like, "My poor friend was in tears. He was, because 'cause you'd walked away, and he just started, like, shaking, and he was like, 'I didn't know what to say. I didn't wanna be flirty and say, like, hello, attractive woman.' I didn't wanna say, like, just hi. So then I thought I'd make a joke, but it was clearly, like, the worst possible thing I could ever have said, and why would I say that? And I feel so terrible." And he was like, he said that he just cried so hard and then had to go home. And I
Oh
was just like,
God.
and I had totally forgotten about it. And I just thought, it's so funny because I think poor guy. But also, I think that was such a water off a duck's back, for that day, obviously for me, because I didn't read it as, "This is confirming that I am in fact an average-looking woman." Obviously, whatever mood I was in, I was like, "Oh, no, he's an asshole," as opposed to thinking, because I think that the psychology that you could be in, the mood you could be in, where if you thought to yourself, "I look like garbage today," and then you went out and somebody said that, then maybe you'd remember that for years as, like, proof,
Yeah.
but if you're not even thinking of that, then you just forget about the incident, and you don't, and he wasn't even calling me, he was panicked himself, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's something that now he remembers as this awful thing. And I just think that is so interesting, and, like, if, like, we could all understand our psychology so much better, and, like, as in depth as Darren Brown, maybe we would be like this superhuman, maybe we would all be like crazy machines who, like, totally understand everything and would never get upset, or, like,
Yeah. Oh my
whoa.
God. I don't know how I would feel if everyone in the world had Darren Brown's abilities and depth of understanding. I think
Actually,
the
maybe
world's
we'd all,
already a scary place to be
yeah,
in.
that's
I'm not sure if
true,
everyone was Darren Brown, if that would help.
that's true, that's true. That's like, yeah, you're right, you're right, you're
I
right.
read something about him where he says he's able to, and I quote here, read subtle cues such as micro muscle movements that indicate if someone is lying. Like,
Wow,
to be able to, like, the way that maybe your eye might kind of imperceptibly twitch,
wow.
or the way you move your hand, or the direction you look in, or if you lick your lips slightly or swallow, whatever it is you do, he's basically like a human lie detector as well. I mean, it can't be overstated what a fascinating
Fascinating, dude.
perspective he
Oh
has,
my god.
and
Now I would love to just be like, "Am I lying? Am I lying?" Like, "This morning I had toast," and just be like, "Boom, boom, boom. This morning I had toast. Did I not?" Everyone else at the dinner party be like, "Oh my god, let's move on." So
Not
bored.
only would he know you had toast, he'd probably like reach into his bag and pull out the piece of toast
Good
that you'd had
toast.
that
Oh my
morning and be like,
god.
"Ta-da!"
And then
He
he tells me to put my hand in my pocket, and I pull out the jam, like, "Oh, how did you do it?"
his work is this really fascinating mix as well between kind of really light stuff and then some really like dark stuff. I mean,
Mm.
famously like playing Russian roulette live on TV and hosting a
Yes, yes.
séance on
I
TV and
forgot
stuff like.
about that. Holy shit, yeah.
It's
Oh,
dark
great.
stuff. I mean, are you particularly drawn to like one side over the other? Because some of his light stuff is really lovely. Like he taught an old woman who'd never played poker before. In 7 days, he taught her how to play poker. She competed at a major poker tournament and came second.
Oh my god.
And like predicting the lottery numbers, like that's lighthearted. But then also convincing someone. Like I saw one of his bits where he staged a car crash and found a body double for this woman, put her to sleep, and when she woke up, she was looking at the fire brigade cutting open her car with her dead body at the wheel. Like, I mean, some fucked up stuff. Like, are you particularly drawn to kind of one side of his work over another, or do you think that the variety of
Absolutely,
his work
I am
is?
not interested in that stuff whatsoever. Oh, no. No, thank you. I don't want, no, no, no trauma, no. That, oh my, no thanks. And, like, the Russian roulette stuff, I forgot about that because I remember watching, like, a half a bit of it on TV, like, years ago, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Nah, I'm not this isn't the kind of thing I'm into," because I don't like where it's like one option is shot bullet through head death, and one option is just not. I'd prefer, like, one option is like, this person can cartwheel that could never cartwheel. Cool. That's what I'm into. I only happy-go-lucky stuff, thank you very much. I mean, he could do some faith healing if he wants, and if anybody has an injury at the table and he can sort that out, he is welcome to, but I will have no trauma, thank you.
Definitely, we're sticking to the lighter side of Darren Brown's work. Well,
Yes, I don't like the
keeping on
yeah.
that kind of light side of life, your fourth guest is a supremely funny person, and like you, he's an actor, he's a sketch comedy performer. He's one of the most beloved comic actors in the world. You're inviting Steve Carell.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Steve Carell, he's such a
Oh,
legend. I mean, when did you become a Steve Carell fan, and what is it about him that you love?
I think I think his favorite character of mine actually is Gru.
Oh
Gru
yeah.
for me, he's amazing. Oh, like oh my god, I love him so much, and obviously Edna Mode, no capes. Um, Despicable Me is one of my favorite films. I just think he Steve Carell, man. When I saw him in The Big Short, I was like, is he in The Big Short or is it what's it called? Yeah, it is
Yeah,
called The Big
yeah, The Big Short, yeah.
Yeah, when I saw him in that and I was like, "Whoa, this guy's breaking my heart." Like, he's such a good actor,
Mm,
and he
mhm.
makes me laugh so much in Anchorman. I mean, and he makes me laugh, and he's here, and The Office. I mean, he's just such a brilliant actor, and I listened to that podcast called An Oral History of The Office,
Oh,
and
right,
it's
okay.
by the guy who played Kevin, um and he's just so funny and lovely and has this magnificent booming deep voice.
Yeah.
And, they were talking about the episode where Steve left, and, they did this whole episode where they interviewed the main people on the show about having left and some of the writers and the producers, and everybody it was making me cry as like the podcast was making me cry, like, "What?" But I obviously have watched all of The Office and twice, maybe even, like, every episode. I just
Yeah.
it's such a brilliant, brilliant show, and I was very upset when he was leaving, and I because he's just so he's just got this amazing quality to him, and he was everything that everybody said on the podcast about him. It's just like, what a nice guy, what a fun, lovely person to work with, like inclusive man, and just such a brilliant actor, and I even
Yeah.
years ago before I was preparing my audition for say Central, I was like looking up actors auditions, like, "How do I audition? I don't know." So I, like, was looking it up and, I don't know who I was supposed to be there, looking up and I saw him do an audition where he was just like, he was on the script and then they were like, "Why don't you improvise a bit?" And he throws away the script and and I just thought, "Wow, that guy is"
Yeah.
and also lovely, and I would love to know how he treats because Lucille Ball also a good, serious actor, and I'd love to know from both of them, do you treat comedy performances and serious performances in the same way? Um,
Yeah.
I think
It's it's
that
such a fascinating thing. I love to talk about comedy with people. It's one of my favorite things in the world, and I think people who don't understand comedy think that comedic acting and comedy performance is so much easier than dramatic performance.
yeah.
And it's just not the case. You
No.
speak to any actor, you speak to any writer, writing comedy twice as hard as writing something serious, comedic acting twice as hard. But
Mm.
it's not to say that every comedian is capable of performing phenomenally touching and sincere and hard hitting dramatic roles, but he is uniquely brilliant at both. I mean, his performance in Little Miss Sunshine was the first time I'd ever seen him
Wow, yeah.
perform a kind of dramatic role. A character who I think his character like just attempted suicide or something, like dark stuff,
Mm. Yes, yes.
and he performs it with such tenderness.
Mm.
I mean, he's
Lovely
he's
word.
just amazing, just an amazing, amazing man. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
forgot.
what qualities do you think he'd be bringing to your dinner party?
I think he'd be just a bit of a laugh. I just think he would be
Yeah.
good crack. I feel like Graham Norton and himself and Lucille Ball would just be laughing all over the place. And that Darren Brown would be showing us some cool stuff. And then we'd all be laughing. And then we'd all be telling stories. And then we'd probably have a big accent off because all of us do accents. And that'd be great crack. And oh my God, I'm getting so excited. It would just be so fun. That's what I think. I think he'd be fun. I remember thinking at my audition for Central that if they locked the doors in here for some reason and there was a power cut, this would be so fun. Like we'd all have to entertain ourselves for weeks, and everyone there's probably so much talent in this building, and loads of people would just like whip out instruments, and there'd be a sing song. Okay, I seem obsessed with sing. But sometimes I think, like, that's what would be so fun. Like, if we were all trapped on the Caribbean island forever, like, it'd still be real fun. Or, like, when you're on a tube carriage and somebody gets on with a guitar and you think, thank God, if this tube stops for ages, I'm just going to ask him to play. Like, I'm just going to.
Yeah,
If it's
yeah.
an hour, I'm going to be like, hey, dude, some people are getting kind of claustrophobic, a little bit panicky. It's kind of hot in here. You want to take that shit out? Just play it. Whatever you want to play, just play it. And then we can sing along. It'd be nice to do it. Sorry. So I've gone off on one, but I just think we would have the crack as the quality he would bring would be lols.
Absolutely, he would be bringing the crack in a huge, huge way. Is there something specific, like an aspect of his work or his personal life or anything that you would really want to kind of grill him on? I mean, his time in the office, or you mentioned his kind of more dramatic roles. Like, I think he's been nominated for, if not an Oscar, certainly a Golden Globe for some of his dramatic acting. I think in Foxcatcher.
Ah. Well,
Um,
I mean, I think what I would want to ask him is about how he said in an interview that he in that podcast interview actually, he said that he left the office just when it was really good and when he was getting comfortable, and he left Second City just when it was really good, and he left his the Daily Show just when it was really good. And so
mm,
he has this kind of thing where he's like, maybe it's fear, maybe I don't want this thing to go, so I elect to leave instead because I love it so much. Or maybe it's just knowing that I've done everything I can here, I've got the absolute best out of it, and I'm leaving while it's the best. And I would like to hear him talk about that because I would like a little bit of that. I'd like to
yeah.
practice that. I think sometimes you can just get wise nuggets from people and they just sit with you and it's nice. Like
Hmm.
Bryan Cranston has this lovely nugget where he's like, if you get to audition, you get to be that person for as long as you are that person, and then you can throw the script in the bin afterwards. Like, that was nice. And then, if you get the recall, cool, you can fish the thing out of the bin or you can print it again. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
and I think about those things, and like this wallet thing. I can't remember who said it, but it was like if you find a wallet on the street, you're not like, my wallet. You hand it in. And if the person's like, oh, no one has come back for weeks, you can have this wallet. Like, if you treat acting parts like that, then it's like, I picked up that wallet. It was nice to hold while I handed it in to the police. And if nobody hands it in, then the police give it back to me. I guess it's my wallet. And but it's not. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's lovely. I sometimes you get these little nuggets, and sometimes you can use the nuggets where you want, and they're lovely. And I think he would have a lovely little nugget about when it's time to leave a party and that party is work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
you're
he would,
absolutely right.
yeah, be wise.
He'd be a perfect mix of, I'm sure, fascinating, very wise, and also absolutely hilarious.
Mm.
A great, great choice, Steve Carell. Your final guest is taking the dinner party into proper dream territory here.
Mhm.
Listener, if you thought Darren Brown was the only one with a trick up his sleeve at this dinner party, you were way off. Because Philippa is inviting Professor Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore to her dinner
Nice
party.
old name. Yeah.
Philippa Dumbledore. So fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I y Dumbledore.
That's almost
That's all
explanation
that's
enough.
all I need to
I
say.
mean,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was all very real. It was all very real until I remembered, like, wait, you can bring people back from the dead. I mean, I brought Lucia back from the dead. So if I could can
yes.
I bring magic? I Yeah, because I think if I'm thinking in terms of like a real dinner that could maybe happen now in some magical a happenstance of like Graham Norton, Darren Brown, and Steve Carell. Well, wouldn't that be awesome? But this is my magic ideal dinner, and I'm having Dumbledore because Dumbledore. I mean, the wise words that he
Oh,
says. Oh,
and he would also be good crack, I think. I mean,
oh yeah.
a long and eventful life, but
Mm.
also he'll have had some fun. Like there'd be mischief at Hogwarts that he'd love
Oh
to
yeah.
share.
Oh, he'd
What
have
would you be hoping he'd bring to it? Do you want to hear those stories? Do you think he would do a little after dinner magic routine with Darren Brown? Like, what are you hoping that Dumbledore would bring?
I think again with the wisdom, Dumbledore would bring some of that because I think that there is these he has these wonderful things like even things like oh but to the oh I can't
Oh
remember
yeah,
now.
to
Well,
the organized
to the
mind.
organized mind, that's it. Death
Yeah,
is but the next great
great
adventure.
adventure.
And
Brilliant line. Yeah.
I just think whether you're a wizard or you're a 12-year-old girl, that's a lovely thing to think and to know and I think yeah, I think he would just bring I just he's Dumbledore. I
I
can't even
know.
I
When did
li
you first become a Dumbledore fan? I mean, did you come to the books kind of a bit later, or were they such a big part of your childhood?
they were a massive part of my childhood. I am not a big reader, as I said again. The writing is would be the tougher area, so the reading is the tougher area for me. As
Hmm.
generally, I listen to everything. I'm a very oral learner. And so I was going on holidays when I was maybe 8, and that's when my mom gave me the books on tape, and I got this massive box of cassettes, and I would put them in my little cassette player, and I just was absolutely in love with it from that moment on. And then I listen to Harry Potter every night now when I'm going to sleep, like with my
Oh, brilliant.
with painful ears sometimes with my headphones like oh I but I have to, it just calms me so much. And it's funny when I find different pals of mine that also listen to Harry Potter like on the regular, just like from the top, let's do it again, let's cycle through them all. And I there's just something I think that's really like oh there I don't know, Harry Potter means a different thing to everybody. Again, I
Yeah,
wish JK would just stop ruining
I
things. Great JK,
know. I
just please
know.
guys, no.
It's very important for the listener to understand that you're inviting Dumbledore, not J.K. Rowling. How do you think Dumbledore would interact with your other guests? Because he's just such a lovely man as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, God, he is just such a lovely man, and his twinkly eyes. I think he would just I just love him so much. I think he would just be really interested in everyone.
Yeah.
I think he would. And I think I mean speaking of faith healing from Darren Brown, you could just get magic healing from Dumbledore. If you had any actual problems, guys, like what was I talking about? Darren can maybe fix you, but doubles can defo fix you. Um, and yeah, I think I just feel like imagine Dumbledore and Graham Norton, like they would just get on so well, and like Dumbledore and
Oh,
Darren
they
Brown,
would.
like discussing different types of magic, real and not real, and it would just be yeah. I just think it would be
Oh, it would just
lovely.
be a dreamy
Mm,
presence to
mm.
have. I really love trying to figure out the kind of common thread that goes through everybody's guests. And I think you've chosen loads of kind of multi-talented and really interesting people, uh, which I think is kind of a reflection of you as
I
well.
mean,
What for
thanks again,
you?
Connor. We're gonna need like a pin to deflate my massive head now. I'm gonna go upstairs and be buttering my toast like, oh, I butter this toast real good.
For you, what do you think would be the kind of the common thread that ties all of your guests together? Do you think there is one?
I think that I think it's they're all really kind people, and I think that my
Mm.
mom recently, in the last couple of years, she saw this thing. I can't remember what it was, but it was maybe it was like a fucking meme or something that said like that this person on their deathbed said, "What's the most important thing you would say to your past self or to anybody now?" And he just said, "Be kind." And I think it's just so she says that to me all the time. I just think it's really nice, and I think a lot of the time we can all just forget it and just be like, oh, feck's sake. Oh, it's so funny. Like, I was driving along with my cousin recently, and this person caught in front of us in the car, and both me and my cousin at the exact same time were like, oh, hey, hey, what a terrible drive. Oh my God. And the minute they got in front, they put the four-way flashers on as a thank you. And at the exact same time, myself and my cousin were like, jeez, well, that's lovely now. That's and we both raised our hand to wave like, well, fair play to him. That was, that's nice. He must be in a rush. And I do think like sometimes, sometimes, especially in the arts, and when there's a pandemic and everybody's going to be fecking stressed out of their minds, and if everybody was just like Dumbledore style, like kind to each other, it would just be nicer and easier and lovely. And I think it's something I would like to try and remember more, to just be like, oh, just
Oh, I think that's a really wonderful reason to invite him. And I mean, just in summary, your guests are just so brilliant. Graham Norton, Lucille Ball, Darren Brown, Steve Carell, Albus Dumbledore, in the wilds of Kerry or on a
yeah,
lovely Caribbean beach, wherever you got them
yeah.
all together. That is a kick-ass dinner party. The only thing left to decide now, Philippa, is what you would feed these wonderful people. Are you an enthusiastic
No.
cook?
I'm gonna go right out there and say that I have been in very nice restaurants before where I've been like, but I would have also liked Domino's just as much. I have what my parents like to call an underdeveloped palate. I love ketchup and mayonnaise mixed together with Tabasco in it, okay? And I don't care who knows it. It's terrible, terrible. But I mean, I can cook when necessity happens. But just these, please have our own chef, which is Will. Will is the glue of the group in terms of he brought us all together, and he also is the team chef. Um,
I
which is fantastic.
see.
So whenever we do shoots and we have loads of people, or whenever we're just, in Edinburgh and we're coming home, and he'll just whip something up in an instant that is delicious. And he, half of us are vegetarian, half of us aren't vegetarian. So he'll do both and like marinate chicken and cook fish. And I mean,
Oh,
for God's sake. So Will could be the chef maybe, or he could teach
I
me
think we can
something.
definitely arrange for
Yeah.
Will to be there as your
Yeah.
chef. I think we'll
That'd be
allow
good.
that. If we're allowing Dumbledore to attend the party, then there's no reason why we can't dream big
Yeah,
and have
yeah.
Will there as the chef. So, what are you having your special chef cook up for your guests? If you could choose any meal for these people.
Ooh. Well, I guess, yeah, I would before have been like a big feckin' lasagna. Um, but But now
Yes.
I'm like, I don't know, are these guys veggies? I don't know any of their dietary requirements. So there's actually William makes a delicious vegan lasagna that sounds absolutely horrifying to my past self, especially because I would have been like, but the point is the cheese and the cream and the meat. But he makes it with cashew cream. I mean, it's all sorts of delish and
Ooh.
roasty veg. Oof, oof, oof. Yeah,
Oh.
so he could make a vegetarian lasagna, and then if there's somebody there that's a vegan, sure, Jesus, he can whip that up for them. But I doubt that that bunch of. I would say that Dumbledore is a meat eater. I reckon, yeah, he
Yes.
probably goes out and magics a deer to death and then roasts it up and just eats it. Yeah, yeah, he eats meat, 100%. 100%, 100% is what I was going to say. Um, yeah, so that's what we're going for,
Brilliant.
big lasagna, and then Nutella for dessert, like just Nutella on whatever you want.
That is just
It's all I
excellent.
ever
Everybody
want.
gets a jar and a
Yes,
spoon.
everyone gets a jar and a spoon, and then the table is littered with like hot things to put it on. So you can like have a hot bagel to put it on, or you can have a hot pancake to put it on, or you can like dip these cookies in it, or you can it's all again, I am not I'm not mature. I would love to love my mom eats 100% chocolate. 100% chocolate. Yeah.
That sounds like
I know,
punishment.
I know. You put it in your mouth and it's like, but it actually, when you have a tiny amount and it swirls around in your spit in your mouth, I mean, it does make for a insanely amazing flavor. But she's
Oh
like,
my
dude,
god.
just try and get to like healthier stuff, and then if you like it, it's amazing. And I'm like, I know, but I just love Nutella, like just scooping it into my greedy mouth. It's terrible. I had no Nutella throughout a large portion of lockdown. I was extremely proud of myself.
Oh my
Yeah, and then
god.
I had maybe 2 drinks too many the other day, and I was just like, "To the shop!" And I bought Nutella, and I've already eaten half the jar. It's my vice.
I think that is and it goes in with what you were saying earlier about kind of loving the kind of cozy vibe and good
Exactly.
chat, good conversation,
Just
bit of
chill.
comfort food. It doesn't
Yeah.
get much better than lasagna
Yeah.
and just a jar of Nutella to dip things in. And
Yeah. And
oh,
Irish
that is
coffee. Irish
brilliant.
coffee's for dessert. Like, loads of whiskey generally. You can have wine
Oh
if you like, but
yes.
I think the whiskey theme is strong here.
I think each and every one of your guests would really appreciate. I can picture every one of them with a good glass of
Mhm.
whiskey.
Mhm.
Do you have a favorite?
A favorite guest or a
Do you have
favorite?
a favorite whiskey? I would never ask you to choose a
Oh,
favorite
thank you.
guest because they're all
Thank
fabulous
choosing between
people.
my children, for God's sake. Imagine I birthed all those people.
What's the common thread between them?
I am
I'm
their
their
mother.
mother. That would be a shocking
Oh my God.
revelation.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you could choose one whiskey, an endless supply of it that night.
Mm, I'm not actually even what's like whiskey wise. Like, I'm very much
Oh.
like, again, Will knows things about whiskey. So I, as I said, we live here and together, I should say, and he has a load of whiskey up there, tasty things, Glenfiddich, and then there's Jameson, and then there's um what's it,
Mm.
smoked barrel. If it's smoky and
Oh,
it's
lovely.
preferably Irish, Bushmills, I'll go with the Bushmills. Yeah, a red
Yes. Brilliant.
Bushmills. I mean, that's the kind of thing that, like, my dad would have that and be like, "Yeah, that's great," and I tell you why that's great, and then he'll tell you a really great story, or he'll tell you about the flight of the Earls or something while he has that on. He's a great crack. It all comes from. Do you know what? Actually, I think the thread of my guess is more maybe fun than kindness, and that the fun is where it's at. I just, yeah, because I just think my dad
Ah.
there with a whiskey, and he's just fun, and like that's I just yeah.
Fun and
Yeah.
kind are two damn fine qualities in a group of guests for a dinner
Mm.
party. Philippa, I have loved this chat. I've loved hearing about your dinner party. I've loved hearing about your guests. Uh, if our lovely listeners want to hear more from you
Mhm.
and see more brilliant things from Just These, Please, and that kind of thing, how can we keep up with Philippa
Oh,
Carson?
well, thanks. That'd be nice if you want to do that. I'm on Instagram at Pip_Carson. And mostly I would say I update that stuff every now and then. If you want to join the loads of men in my DMs that say, "Hello, beautiful princess queen, will you be mine today?" And then 3 roses, you can also do that. Um, I have I get a lot of that. A film that I was in a film that I
Wow.
was in was released in a few languages, so sometimes I get them in different languages. But I do
Amazing.
get some very peculiar things, but also because I don't really know how to market myself. I guess on the way you have to like be your own, like, what's the word, like a
Ooh, yeah.
product. I don't really know. And then I lived with like a social media person for a while. So she was like, "Yeah, it's all selfies. You just got to take a picture of yourself where you look great and put that picture of yourself on the internet." Um,
Oh my
so
God.
I don't know, but I keep that Instagram going. But mostly are Just These Please, which is just these please, like what you buy when you buy things. Um, we do a lot of stuff on YouTube and Facebook and TikTok and Twitter and Instagram. So Just These Please is our name on all those things, so you can follow us there and be
Oh,
one of the
well,
preteens. We have many preteens. So I have old strange men, and Just These Please has preteens. Yeah.
There's got to be a market somewhere
Come
in the
on,
middle that you
guys.
guys can find. Yeah.
Any people between those ages, you guys, please be my friend. Please.
Well, I will add all of those links to your social media and to Just These Please YouTube channel and all the rest of it to the episode description. I cannot recommend highly enough that you go on and spend a lovely afternoon or morning just looking at all the different videos. They're so
Oh,
much fun.
thank you, Connor.
Philippa, it's been such a pleasure
Yeah,
chatting
you
to you for this. Thank you
too.
so much
Thanks.
for taking the time and hope to speak to you
All
again
right,
soon.
bye. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
How about that? Philippa Carson's Dream Dinner Party. That was an absolute belter. Great guests. And Philippa was just so much fun to talk to. Make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel for Just These Please. And check out Philippa on all the socials. Links to those accounts are on the episode description. Also in the episode description are links to the two brilliant podcasts we mentioned. The Last 10 Minutes from Philippa's Just These Please castmate Will and the brilliant Sean Matthews. And Philippa mentioned the wonderful Jarlath Regan. You can find a link to Jarlath's excellent podcasts in the episode description. I really hope you're enjoying the podcast, even a tiny amount as much as I am, because I am loving making this. I'd love it so much if you would like, subscribe, rate, share, all that stuff. Anything you can do to help us spread the word about the brilliant episodes we've recorded so far would be so kind. And we've got some excellent guests lined up over the next few weeks. I really am so excited for you to hear those episodes. The Dinner Party's a Jericho comedy production. If you want to hear any more from me, you can visit www.connormcreynolds.com and have a look and listen to some of my other radio, podcast, writing, and comedy work. I'll be back next week with another brilliant guest chatting all about their dream dinner party. But until then, thank you so much for listening and bye-bye.